So let's go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Jennifer Freed. I'm a part of the DDS communications team, and thank you for joining us today for our Red Cross Wildfire Pre-Planning and Evacuation webinar. I have a few things to note before we get started. We are offering Spanish interpretation today, so I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to our Spanish interpreter to give instructions on how to access the Spanish channel.
La interpretación en español, por favor haga el clic en el globo blanco en la parte inferior de la pantalla con la etiqueta Interpretación. Luego haga el clic en Español, Spanish y seleccione Mute Original Audio, en cual lo va a poner silencio su audio. Gracias.
All right, thank you. Now I'll hand it over to our Tagalog interpreter to give instructions on how to access the Tagalog channel.
Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Ako po si Dennis Castro, yung tagapagsalin niyo po sa Tagalog. Para sa interpretasyon sa Tagalog, i-click niyo po yung puting globo sa baba ng screen sa toolbar na nakasulat ng Interpretation. I-click niyo po ang inyong lengguwahe, Tagalog, at piliin niyo po ang Mute Original Audio para hindi niyo po marinig yung English. Salamat po. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We are also offering ASL interpretation for today's meeting. The interpreters have been spotlighted, so their video will always be displayed for everyone on screen. This meeting is being recorded so that you can be sure to accurately capture your feedback. The recording will be made available following the last training session in later June. The PowerPoint slides and supporting materials will be sent after the end of the presentation, and also a certificate of completion will be made available as well. Any and all questions you may have for a presenter will be taking place at the end of the presentation. If your question isn't answered, it will be followed up on after the presentation ends. Just a reminder that your controls for today's meeting are available in the Zoom toolbar at the bottom of your screen. Your video, microphone, and chat will not be available, but you can put your comments into the Q&A and they will be addressed at the end of the presentation. And with that, I will thank you for being with us today. And with that, I'll hand it over to Tamara.
Thank you, Jennifer, and good morning, everyone. And welcome to today's training on wildfire evacuation preparedness. Happy to have you. This training was developed in partnership with the American Red Cross, the California Department of Social Services Community Care Licensing Division, the Department of Developmental Services, and the Association of Regional Center Agencies, representing the 21 community-based regional centers. Today's material was prepared with the focus on adult residential facilities and residential facilities for the elderly. We hope you walk away with the tools and resources excuse me, to create, review, or update your emergency plans while ensuring staff and individuals you serve are better prepared and understand their role during emergencies. Please note that materials covered today during this presentation will be sent to all of you following today's session. This includes the presentation slides and a certificate of completion for your files. At this time, I would like to welcome and introduce Sherry Lewis with American Red Cross and Taylor Simeon, I'm sorry if I messed up your name, who will be our presenters for today's training. Sherry is going to start us off. Sherry, take it away.
Welcome to the Wildfire Pre-Planning and Evacuation Training created by Red Cross in collaboration with all of those California agencies that Tamara mentioned. Thank you, Tamara, for the introduction. My name is Sherry Lewis, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be with you today. I was part of the team that created this presentation and the guidance that goes along with it. I joined Red Cross in 2018 after the Camp Fire ravaged Paradise, California, and the surrounding areas. I learned the devastating impacts wildfire has on individuals, families, and their communities. Their personal stories about evacuation and shelter experiences inspired me to join the Red Cross because I realized how much support is needed during and after a disaster. California has experienced a lot of fires since then, Many people have evacuated and many of them have sought shelter. A lot of their feedback and the lessons they learned and shared with me and this team have directed much of the guidance that's created. Today, Taylor and I are going to cover what to do before, during, and after an evacuation of the residential facility you work at. Before we get started, Taylor, please take a moment to tell them about yourself.
Thank you, Sherry. Hi, everybody. My name is Taylor Simonian, and I'm also a volunteer with the American Red Cross, and I'm happy to be here with you all today. I joined the Red Cross in 2020 after the Creek Fire occurred in the Central Valley of California, and I've since become more involved. I'm looking forward to speaking with you all today. Thank you. Back to you, Sherry.
3 pieces of guidance will be provided that you'll hear referenced throughout the presentation, which perfect. The 3 pieces of guidance shown here, along with a copy of this slide deck and some other reference materials will be sent to you. The first is the conversation starter. This guide is designed to help staff have a conversation with each of the individuals they serve to let the individuals know what to expect, to identify their evacuation and shelter needs, and to discuss how you will work together to respond safely. The second is an informative flyer for the individuals served about what to expect, how to plan and prepare for a wildfire evacuation and stay at a shelter. The third is a preparedness checklist for you, other staff, or those who support staff at residential facilities to refer to when preparing for an evacuation prompted by a wildfire or other hazard. Other resources will also follow that include the PowerPoint presentation with the speaker notes, a video recording of the presentation, a question and answer or Q&A document based on the questions we received throughout the presentation. Please enter questions in the Q&A throughout the presentation. Our subject matter experts from California Department of Developmental Services and Red Cross will answer questions as the presentation progresses. Other questions, especially those that come up often, will be answered at the end of the presentation so everyone can benefit from hearing the question and the response. Some questions may need some research. The answers we do not have today will also be included in the Q&A sent to you as follow-up. Now I'm passing it over to Taylor.
Thank you, Sherry. What is wildfire? Wildfire is unplanned and unwanted fire burning in a natural area that can spread quickly to nearby communities. It is unpredictable, fast-moving, and destructive. It is driven by wind and fueled by flammable materials. Flying embers can start and spread fires quickly. Wildfire impacts many areas in California. It is important that we are mindful of the dangers it presents and how to prepare for it. Understand the hazards in your local vicinity, like if you're near a natural area or in a wildland urban interface where structures may be right next to wildlands susceptible to fire. Today, we're going to talk about how to prepare so you can evacuate with the things you need. Sometimes when the fire is moving fast, just the clothes on your back is what you need. Before an emergency occurs, create a preparedness plan for you and your own family. Plan ahead now with your family so that you can focus on your job during an emergency. Make sure that everyone in your family knows about the local risks in your community. Risks could include hazards like wildfire, floods, extended power outages, earthquake, and others. They should know how to communicate and reconnect with your family. Have a plan, especially if cell service may be compromised. Knowing emergency skills such as first aid and CPR can be helpful. They should understand how to monitor for evacuation warnings and orders. Everyone should sign up for emergency alerts for the areas they go regularly or visit. Those places include home, work, school, the gym, church, homes of families and friends, or places you vacation. They should know your household and community evacuation plans. Create and practice your household evacuation plan and discuss how to learn about community evacuation plans when they are occurring. Everyone should create a go kit. You should have one for yourself at work, and every family member should have a personal go kit at home. You need to be prepared at home so that you can continue providing care to the individuals you serve. If you know that your situation at home will prevent you from staying on the job to support the individuals you serve, have the discussion ahead of time with the one you report to so you can all plan and prepare accordingly, and so the individuals served have continuity of care. You know, when they're giving the presentation on the airplane and they tell the parents to put their face masks on first before they put it on the children? Disaster preparedness is the same way. You must prepare at home in order to prepare and care for the individuals you serve. Create a preparedness plan for you and your family so you can focus on the tasks at hand during an emergency. Most importantly, review and practice your plans often so that everyone knows what to do during a wildfire. Before an emergency, learn about the risk in your community and review your county emergency management website to learn about natural and man-caused risks in your area. Understanding your situation is vital and can save precious time during an evacuation, prevent unnecessary confusion, maintain calm behavior, and keep everyone as safe as possible during an emergency. Every county has an emergency plan. Consider inviting someone from your county, city, or town that knows the emergency plan and can share specifics that are applicable to your area. You can invite other subject matter experts from community organizations like the Red Cross or community emergency response teams to share their guidance, their roles, and also help you gain an understanding of resources that may be available to support you and the individuals served during an emergency. How to sign up for emergency notification systems. It is crucial that you know where to sign up for emergency alerts for your area. To check on the status of current incidents, learn how urgent the evacuation is, what route to take, and where to go if you get evacuated. Become familiar with evacuation and shelter plans available on the county website to consider the routes and shelter locations if listed, and when developing and practicing your plans. Have important contact information on hand, such as your after-hours numbers for your local fire departments. Establish a relationship with your local fire department and share your plans with them. You may be able to identify ways to support one another if you've established a communication plan beforehand. Refer to the California Office of Emergency Services website if you are unsure who the best local contacts are. There is a regional and county contacts lookup link provided in the guidance. I'm going to pass it back to Sherry now. Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor. Before an emergency, review and understand your facility's emergency plan. Refer to your staff checklist for information on where to find and be aware of the state of California's law and licensing requirements that your facility is required to follow. Ensure you are familiar with staff responsibilities, staff checklists, and/or assignments during an emergency per your facility plan, and the applicable law and licensing requirements like completing, filing, posting, and making available upon request any Health and Human Services agency forms per their instructions. A couple of the forms are shown here. The first is the 610E, which is the Emergency Disaster Plan for Residential Care Facilities for the Elderly, and the 610D, which is the Emergency Disaster Plan for adult day programs, adult residential facilities, residential care facilities for the chronically ill, and social rehabilitation facilities. Reach out to the person you report to if you're not familiar with the plan for your facility, where to find it, what your responsibilities are, how frequently it is updated, how it is practiced, and how often it is practiced. Those responsible for maintaining the emergency plan can reach out to the local point of contact in your county who can offer support creating or updating your facility's emergency plan. There are some helpful links that will take you to the California Department of Social Services templates for different emergency plans that may work for your facility if you're starting from scratch, or if you would like to rewrite your existing plan using one of their templates. Before an emergency, some more things to understand about your facility's emergency plan include understanding staff responsibilities, facility checklists, and maps. Review staff roles for caring and accounting for all clients during all stages of an evacuation, including communications, transportation, sheltering, and any medical needs. Be sure to include maps that show the accountability zones, assembly points, exits, and where emergency supplies are located. Knowing the communications plan and that it includes accessible communications and alerts for staff, clients, and family members. Identifying who your county's point of contact is that supports residential facilities during disasters. Understanding the transportation plan for all transportation needs, including the building evacuation, transportation to alternate facilities, shelters, and returning to the facility to ensure continuity of care of the individuals you serve. Knowing where to go for evacuation and sheltering information. Refer to your area's alert system notifications, the website used to share evacuation routes and shelter locations, and those local and news and radio stations that transmit vital information during emergencies. Sometimes the most updated information can be found on the social media pages of the sheriff's or fire department's offices. So remember to check Facebook and Twitter. Most importantly, know your role in the plan before an emergency happens. It is vital for everyone's safety. Having an emergency plan that is effective, practiced by staff and clients, and reviewed often can save precious moments when they are needed most. Know your role in each stage of your plan, including evacuation, transportation, sheltering, and return to your facility. Know your part for effective communications throughout the entire process. Know your role in preparedness for the individuals served, including their emergency supplies and continuity of care. Most importantly, practice your plan. It should be practiced at least quarterly for each shift. Before an emergency, learn and know about necessary notifications that you need to make. Notify the regional center and community care licensing when a decision to evacuate has been made. Links are provided in the guidance of how you can find the contact information for your local regional office. Before an emergency, sign up for emergency alerts. Know how emergency notifications work and how to sign up for them in the counties you frequently visit. Each county in California has an alerting program that you can sign up for to receive alerts if an emergency situation were to arise in that county. If you work in one county but live in another, sign up for both. Just find the county in the list and sign up. In most cases, you're going to need your mobile phone number and an email address to sign up. Before an emergency, know what emergency notifications to expect and how to respond to them. You may receive an emergency notification from the California Department of Social Services through a system called Everbridge. It's going to look something like this, and it is intended for you to quickly update them on the status of your facility and make them aware of potential needs that could arise. This will allow them to start assembling teams so they may be able to support any needs more quickly if the operating area needs it and requests it. The first option lets them know that your facility has not been impacted by the fire. Woohoo! It has not been evacuated and it will continue to operate. The second option lets them know the facility can operate, but it is experiencing some manageable impacts from the fire. The third option alerts them that your facility has been evacuated, but it is not damaged and you will be able to operate once the evacuation order has lifted. And finally, the last option lets them know that your facility has evacuated and or has been damaged and it will not be able to operate. The responses will be shared appropriately with agencies that may be able to support if needed based on the circumstances. Before an emergency, monitor weather alerts through radio, TV, emergency alerts from your local government, or download the Red Cross Emergency app. Know when those red flag warnings are happening. Before an emergency, find evacuation routes and shelters if the information is available. Use the links provided in the guidance that will help connect you to the sign up for the emergency alerts in your county that will help you learn about evacuation routes and shelters for you and the individuals served. Refer to your county's emergency alert information for more information on where to go. And remember, not all areas operate the same. So it's important to find out how to receive this information now and where to go to find it during an emergency. Before an emergency, a communications plan is essential to develop and learn for everyone to be prepared to communicate all stages of the evacuation with staff, clients, shelters, transportation teams and or vendors, and families of the individuals served. Just like it's important for us to know how to get in contact with them, it is also important for them to know how to get in contact with you. Make sure that all contact information is up to date. Emergencies can change quickly, and everyone must remain flexible to adapt as needed. Sometimes shelter locations can change, or evacuation routes may be altered based on the changing conditions. Be sure your communication plan includes how to communicate modifications quickly. Before an emergency, evacuation plans ensure everyone knows the process to evacuate safely and how to document the movement of everyone and the necessary supplies. Everyone will be evacuated. It could be to an emergency shelter or your facility's planned alternate location. Evacuating means going from an unsafe place to a safe place. If you are being asked to evacuate, that means that you and the individuals you serve may be unsafe. Once a decision to evacuate has been made, make sure you have a process in place to evacuate the individuals you serve safely and efficiently. The process should include a way to document that client movement. Plan to bring everything needed, including records of the individuals served, medications, assistive and medical devices, notes on any dietary needs, comfort items, and go kits. Make sure you bring your own go kit with any needed personal items for you while staying with the individuals served during the evacuation and at the shelter. Refer to your notes from your planning conversations you had with the individuals served and include them in reviewing the checklist as part of your planning. Before an emergency, transportation plans can save time and reduce chaos. Understand transportation needs. Know how you will address any medical needs during transportation. Know how many individuals served require special transport vehicles and the durable medical equipment that must be transported with them. Make sure the vehicles have capacity to transport the individuals with all the varying types of required medical equipment at the same time. Remember, you're all evacuating at once, so all the people, wheelchairs, oxygen concentrators, walkers, everything must go at once. Review your facility's transportation plan and how to implement it, including backup plans. A detailed transportation plan is essential in order to execute it quickly during an evacuation. Have a schedule so everyone knows what is expected of them and how quickly things should progress. Conduct regular vehicle maintenance plans that include vehicle maintenance, driver training, drills to practice, and backup plans. Verify that staff are licensed and trained for all the vehicles that they are assigned to drive, and that they're comfortable driving the evacuation vehicle assigned to them. Verify plans with any third-party vendors and verify they have the capacity to support your facility during a disaster, especially during times their services are not normally required. Transportation is where challenges can arise and really delay evacuation. If you use a third-party transportation service, make sure you have a conversation with them on what might change during a disaster and that you have an emergency contact available for them 24/7. Develop a plan to maintain level of care of the individuals you serve during travel, to document all movement of the individuals served and any treatments throughout the evacuation process. This is going to include initial evacuation, pickup from any family or friends, transport to and from necessary healthcare treatments like dialysis or therapy, and finally back to the shelter or back to the facility. Before an emergency, prepare for sheltering. Your continued care at the shelter is required. Disaster is chaotic, no matter how much we prepare for it. There are a lot of fast-moving parts during an evacuation. So the more preparation that can be done before going to a shelter, the more comfortable everyone will be, and continued care will be easier to achieve. This means having all the right items in the go kits. Individuals served will need you in the same way at the shelter as they needed you in the facility you evacuated from. In some instances, they may require more assistance to navigate the new environment. Be ready to introduce yourself to shelter staff and plan with them so they know your continuity of care plan. Ask them where to find the health services and disability integration teams if they're available, so they can support you and the clients you serve get set up in the shelter and with that continuity of care. Sometimes you might arrive before those teams. That's okay. The shelter staff is there to help provide direction and help you with the clients you serve so they can get set up and you can resume the support you did at your regular location. Create a list for each individual that you can share with shelter staff of accommodations that you use in your facility, including feeding accommodations, sleeping accommodations, medicines that you provide or may need, medical equipment, and if there's a medical need for quiet space. Alert the shelter manager or supervisor of any dietary needs if it isn't discussed during the intake process of each individual. Plan how you will maintain any needed medical appointments while at the shelter. Maintain communications with healthcare providers so individuals can maintain any needed medical appointments while at the shelter. Plan how you will continue documenting staff rounds, care provided, and any concerns. You can probably use a method very similar to how you conducted at your facility day to day. Before an emergency, here's a bit more of what you can expect at a shelter. Wildfires are a disaster, and disasters by nature can be overwhelming as people and organizations respond. It is important to know that every shelter is different, but you can be ready for some basic things at a shelter. Those things include a safe place to sleep, food to eat, and beverages to drink. The shelter will have trained staff to help you and the individuals you serve. Registration. When you arrive at a shelter, you will be directed to check in a process called registration. Everyone who enters the shelter will be required to register and will be asked to provide some basic information. When you register, be prepared to provide information about you and about the needs of the individuals served, including special sleeping accommodations needed instead of regular cots, special dietary requirements, medicine, and daily care. Dormitory. You and the individuals you serve will have a place to sleep at the shelter called a dormitory. In the dormitory will be rows of cots for you to sleep on. Talk to shelter staff when you register if individuals served will need accommodations or a different type of cot. You and the individuals you serve may be housed in the general shelter, or there may be an area or locations to accommodate individuals who have medical or other needs. Feeding. There will always be food, snacks, and water available. Sometimes meals can be catered, and sometimes you may receive shelf-stable meals. Food can be served from what we call an emergency response vehicle, or ERV. Even after alerting shelter staff, you will need to make sure that any special dietary requirements are followed by the individuals served. Before an emergency, here's a bit more of what to expect at a shelter. Information on the disaster will be provided. There is oftentimes a message and information board near the entrance and registration area of the shelter to keep everyone updated on the disaster response, meals or other events that are scheduled, and other useful information that may be important to the clients and individuals served. There may be a lot of people at the shelter. Shelter environments vary a lot depending on the number of people being evacuated and how many shelters are open. Sometimes when a lot of people are evacuated, a very large shelter like a convention center or an arena can be opened. Other times, evacuations are for smaller communities, and a church, community, or senior center can support those who need it. It may be loud. If your individuals served are likely to be stressed by noise, plan to ask about quiet space areas and consider bringing noise-canceling headphones with you to the shelter. Add those to the go kits of any individuals who may need them. Shelters can be open for many days or just a short time, depending on how many people are displaced from where they live and how long they are displaced. Have fun and be creative about how to provide activities for individuals served that will familiarize them, difficult word today, and test shelter conditions. You could set up a cot and practice getting up and down. You could practice a communal feeding environment if clients or individuals served are used to eating in their rooms or in smaller groups. Shelters should be inviting to all who are seeking a safe place to go when evacuating their home. Not all shelters are Red Cross shelters. They may be operated by the jurisdiction like the city or the county, or Red Cross or other partner organizations. These shelters are all designed to welcome everyone. We're going to watch a short video about how that inclusion looks.
We cannot hear the video.
Not a problem. Give me just a moment.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Everyone.
Todos.
الجميع مرحب بهم.
欢迎
مرحبا.
At an American Red Cross shelter,
Cuando se produce un desastre en su zona,
the Red Cross may open,
يفتح ملجأ.
where you can sleep,
用餐
to get you back on your feet,
لن يطلب الصليب الأحمر.
Never ask.
your citizenship status,
ولن يشارك معلوماتك الخاصة.
sin su permiso.
也无论您从哪里来。
Everyone.
Todos.
الجميع مرحب بهم.
at an American Red Cross shelter. To learn more about the Red Cross or to find an open shelter in your area, go to redcross.org or call 1-800-RED-CROSS.
Before an emergency, preparing the individuals served so they have a better understanding of what to expect can make the experience less confusing and stressful. Plan ahead of time with the individuals you serve so they can be prepared and know what to do to help and stay calm. Provide information on what to expect at a shelter by sharing the plan and any other information with them that could be useful. Staff should have periodic conversations with the individuals they serve to ensure they are ready for a wildfire evacuation. First, review the individuals served checklist to cover the process that will be followed if an evacuation of the facility is required. Next, use the conversation starter to guide your conversation and make sure all the important parts of the discussion are covered. You should know what to expect, and they should know how they can help. Finally, document conversation and decisions made about the individual's needs, concerns, or special considerations important to remember during the evacuation or stay at the shelter. Let's take a closer look at personal go kits for you and the individuals served. You'll see these recommendations in the guidance that will be provided, but some very important things include ID cards. This could be a driver's license, state identification, military ID, or passport. These are things that should go in a personal travel go kit, things used in every day for day-to-day life. Another item is an emergency contact card that is shown here. This should include all those important people that individuals served want notified about their whereabouts and condition. Phone charger and chargers for other devices, along with any batteries, should all go in the Go Kit to support any devices that are used regularly. Communication accommodations is anything that the individuals served may utilize to support their daily communications activities. There should be a bottle of water and a diet appropriate snack. It should be well packaged so it does not attract critters like mice. You don't want to get into your Go Kit and find that your snack was already consumed by another little critter and left a mess. Personal shelter Go Kits should include those care items used by you and the individuals served every day. They include items like some of the following: personal hygiene items like your toothbrush, toothpaste, a washcloth, soap, face wash, lotion, change of clothes. At least one change of clothes should be pre-packed, but 3 are preferred to manage any types of spills or other accidents that could occur, especially if this day is for multiple days. Assistive devices. This could include dentures, hearing aids, magnifying glass, noise canceling headphones like we talked about. Comfort items. This could include anything that brings the individual served comfort. It could be a stuffed animal, a special blanket, photo of a family member, anything that's small that can be packed away quickly. Any required medications and medical equipment. This includes wheelchairs, walkers, scooters, or other mobility support devices. Sleep support devices that support the individual served sleep throughout the night. Oxygen support devices. Slings or other items that support individuals served with their mobility to and from the commode and other mobility devices. Anything used to support the individuals served maintain their daily routines. That's what should go in the Go Kit and should be available for them at the shelter. Before an emergency, practice your plan to make sure everyone knows what to expect during an evacuation. It's vital to ease some of the stress that impacts everyone during an emergency. Preparation and practice of evacuation plans will reduce the stress because everyone knows their role and what is expected of them. Ensure everyone knows what to expect during an evacuation by conducting exercises for building evacuation using the vehicles and accommodations. Disasters are stressful for everyone. To reduce stress on you and your individuals served, be prepared for what to expect, but let them know that unexpected things happen during an emergencies. So it is important to remain aware and flexible. Individuals served and staff should practice their evacuation plan together so that everyone will know what their role will be. Consider testing accommodations and communal meals. Consider whether dining will look differently and whether they can use a cot independently or if they will need help. Ensure each segment of your plan is practiced, from the building evacuation, transportation of staff and the individuals served, and sheltering. After you have practiced your plan, document and make any needed changes to improve it. Then practice it again. Remember, exercises can be fun. Find those actors in your group and role play. During an emergency is when you're going to implement your plan and when the planning pays off, because precious time can be used most effectively. When there is increased risk, follow the plans that have been developed to stay connected and aware of the potential for evacuation or whether an evacuation warning or order has been issued. Implement the evacuation as quickly and smoothly as possible when you find out there is a warning or order. Provide continual care to the individuals served during the entire process. During an emergency, it is crucial to stay connected and informed. During increased risk of evacuation, continue to monitor local alerts and warnings by staying connected to the local alert system, websites, and those social media pages where responding agencies are sharing information. Staying connected and informed about the wildfire, the response, who should evacuate, and where to evacuate to is vital during an emergency. Notify families of a potential evacuation as soon as it's known. Remember that communication goes both ways. It is important to stay informed, but it's just as important for you to inform others. Let families know when an evacuation is occurring or expected to occur. Notify staff to be prepared to evacuate and to provide continuity of care. They should make the necessary arrangements to provide continued care to individuals served when they're evacuated and the stay at the shelter. When you evacuate because of a wildfire warning, evacuation order, follow the plan to first notify the regional center and community care licensing. Notify all staff to begin the evacuation and remind them what each of their roles are. Notify individuals served of plans to evacuate and, if known, the shelter location they're going to. Communicate with families and facility leadership to advise them when you arrive safely at the shelter or alternate location and continue with status updates. Remember, a lot of times travel can take longer during an evacuation because everyone is trying to leave at once. Let family members and leadership know once you've arrived because they may not remember that it may take longer during an evacuation. During an emergency and an increased risk of evacuation, remember, you'll know that there is an increased risk because there's a growing wildfire nearby or it's a red flag warning area day. On those days, prepare clients for possible evacuation. Ensure adequate staffing will be available. Increase your staff if needed to facilitate the continued care of the individuals served during the preparation, evacuation, and stay at the shelter. Validate that transportation is ready and available and your plan is ready to set into motion. Check your plan for medical appointments that are scheduled during the shelter or during your stay at the shelter or the evacuation. Plan and schedule how transportation for medical appointments like dialysis or other necessary treatments will be managed from the shelter. Review your documentation plan and methods to continue documenting staff rounds, care provided, and any concerns. Reassure the individuals you serve that they will continue to receive the care they do while they're at the shelter in a safe place, even if it feels a little bit more chaotic. Remind them staying flexible and calm will help reduce their stress and the stress of those around them. During an emergency, Implement the evacuation when an evacuation warning or order has been issued. Do not wait. Implement transportation plans to move individuals served, staff, go kits, medical equipment, records, and any needed supplies. Staging evacuation supplies, large medical equipment, and checking your just-in-time items for go kits can save valuable time during an emergency. To minimize wait time, consider moving larger items to the transportation and then moving individuals served to the transportation, but only when time allows. Remember, people are always first. Stuff can always be replaced. It is wonderful to have, but only when time allows for you to bring it. Keep individuals involved so that they can start preparing. This is the time that individuals served and staff check that all the supplies that were agreed upon are packed. These items should have been discussed and documented during those conversation starters with staff. Providing continual care through the evacuation may not look the same. When it's time to move the individuals served, you complete the packing of just-in-time checklists and start carrying the larger go kits, shelter kits, and medical equipment to the transportation. Remind the individuals served of the plans and that their continuous care is at the top of mind, even if things seem chaotic and confusing. During an emergency, providing continual care is required at a shelter or at the alternate location. Alert shelter staff of any unique needs of individuals served and have those managed first. Document the check-in of the individuals, medication regimens, that necessary medical equipment is on hand and available, and where any personal supplies are. Document all care provided throughout the entire evacuation. Arrange transportation and in-transit care for any needed procedures that cannot be provided at the shelter. Remember to verify the transportation plan with those involved in transporting individuals served to any necessary medical treatments or appointments. Notify external medical services that are scheduled to visit any individuals served that an evacuation has occurred and that services should be relocated or rescheduled due to the evacuation. During an emergency, like when a wildfire is still burning, but when you have received word that it's safe to move back, ensure the facility is ready. When authorities confirm that the facility you evacuated from is safe and all evacuation orders have been lifted, ensure the facility is ready for individuals to return by making sure enough support is available through transport of the clients, arrival to the facility, and the care required to help get the individuals served settled back into their normal living quarters. Notify the family and friends of the individuals served that you've returned to the facility and let them know any updates about their loved one. Arrange for transportation and return to the facility. Ensure that the individuals are accounted for during the transportation process and when they arrive. Confirm that individuals and their belongings are accounted for before, during, and after transport from the shelter to your regular facility. Notify external medical services and other providers who visit the facility that the individuals served are back at the facility and ready to resume normal activities. After an emergency, and after everyone is back in the facility, reestablish care for the individuals you serve. Assess any physical, mental, or other health issues with each. The extra stress experienced from the evacuation, shelter stay, change from routine, and movement back to the place they fled from may have impacts to their health that need to be addressed. Have a plan to provide mental health support to staff and individuals who may need help coping from the stress of the emergency. Create an after-action report. Identify what worked, the problems encountered, and anything that could be done differently to improve the plans. Be sure to include feedback from the individuals you serve. Incorporate changes into your plan and training when you practice. It is best to complete the after-action report as soon as possible after you return, so the feedback is fresh on everyone's mind. Remember, we are all in this together. These resources are available to refer to, but it's just the beginning. Connect with those in your community that will be working with you to support the needs of the individuals you serve. Pre-planning can save precious moments, set expectations for the individuals you serve, reduce the stress for all, and allow you to make critical decisions with confidence, effectively and efficiently. Now, we're going to take some time to review some of the questions. I want to thank everyone who entered questions into the Q&A. Our moderators and subject matter experts from California Department of Developmental Services and Red Cross have been answering questions throughout the presentation. Now, they're going to read and answer some questions that came up a lot, generated more questions, and some of the unanswered questions. A lot of people have joined us today, so we're going to get through as many as we can. But remember, we're creating a Q&A reference that will answer the questions we do not have time to get to, and those that we need to find the answers to. We'll share the Q&A that includes all the questions and answers with all the attendees, and we will use the feedback to modify what we include in future presentations. I'm going to pass it now over to our moderators.
Well, thank you, Sherry, and thank you, team. Well, the good news is we might have answered many of the questions during our introductions because there weren't many questions that came through. Christy, do you second that? I didn't see very many questions come through.
You are correct, but I do have some questions to answer.
Okay.
All right, awesome. I just wanted to thank you all so much for your fantastic questions. My name is Christy and I work for the American Red Cross along with Sherry and Taylor, and I'm just so happy to be here today. We did hear some questions in the last few of our presentations that I wanted to bring up today. One of the questions we received is, during the registration process at a shelter, what questions are asked, which is a fantastic question. At the Red Cross shelter, we ask basic questions such as the person's name, a primary phone number or email address that we can use to get in contact with them if needed, what their primary language is, and if applicable, the names of those they live with. We accommodate individuals with access and functional needs, visual and hearing impairments, as well as service animals. So we will also ask if there are any needs while staying at the shelter. This information is then used to help us provide the best client service, help maintain shelter operations, and ensure that the shelter has all the supplies it needs. And Red Cross will not share this information. And another question that we saw come through quite a few times is whether or not the PowerPoint will be shared. And the answer to that is yes. The PowerPoint, along with some additional resources, will be sent to you. These resources are the conversation starter, an informative flyer for the individual served, and a preparedness checklist for you that goes over everything that Sherry and Taylor went over today. A video recording of the presentation will also be shared after our final presentation at the end of June. And I have one more question to review, and then I'll pass it off to DDS to answer a question if needed. And that is, are wheelchairs allowed in a shelter? And the answer to that is absolutely. Wheelchairs, walkers, scooters, or any other mobility device are welcomed at a shelter. We actually encourage everyone to bring any required medications and medical equipment with them.
All right. Well, thank you, Christy. I appreciate that. I think Christy touched on one that I would cover. Basically, you will receive all the materials today, as well as a certificate of completion for your files. Vicente or other moderators, are there any other questions that we would like to cover today?
Hi, good afternoon. This is Vicente Miles. I'm with Harbor Regional Center in the Greater South Bay area of Los Angeles County. There was a question about community drills and does local jurisdictions offer drills. And so we recommended that you reach out to your local city or county government to find out regularly scheduled drills so that you can get information about how your local city or county has prepared for emergencies, as well as sometimes that they have community liaison groups that you're able to participate in, as well as just a note, there was a question on how frequently should we review our emergency plan. So generally, of looking at your emergency plan, it's recommended of looking at it annually just to make sure that you have updated personnel, that you've identified new hazards in the area and making sure that you have a plan, as well as a plan for drilling. It's important to practice your plans as well as communicating with your regional center so that if they are drilling, that you're included, as well as of reaching out to the persons, the family members or caregivers of persons that are residents so that they can be informed of practice drills as well as of having the opportunity of being involved. As we have mentioned, it's important to make sure that you have open lines of communication. And it's a great way of preparing not only the individuals served, but their family members and loved ones when you're informing them and including them in drills. Thank you for your participation. Tamara, that's all I have.
Thank you, Vicente. Kit, did you have anything to add?
Yes, thank you for participating in this webinar that DDS and Red Cross put out. It was great. And I just want to remind everyone that, you know, when you have the emergency disaster plan prepared on an annual basis, the administrator should review and update the plan as needed and make sure that it's made available upon request to the residents on site, to any responsible party, to the local long-term care ombudsman if they come visit you, and also to any local emergency responders. And they must be kept on file so that when licensing staff come out, you know, they can review them as needed. Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks for those reminders, Kit. And Kit is representing the Department of Social Services. All right, well, if there are no further questions, let me check the chat. We will thank you for attending today. Thank you to our presenters, Sherry and Taylor, and thank you all for attending. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.